Hi everybody, hope you are doing well. Welcome to this session. In this video, we are going to discuss how to tackle weakening questions which come under the category of critical reasoning. My name is Juhi Narula and let's get started. Before we commence with the techniques and strategies, let's quickly revise what we have learned so far. So when we talk about critical reasoning, the question has three parts to it. The first part is a small paragraph, which we in technical terms call an argument. Based on this, a question is created. So question stem is the second part, and the third, of course, remains to be the options. So when we talk about an argument, first let's understand that what is an argument. Though we have had a detailed video where we have talked at length how an argument is composed, but let's quickly revise. So argument is a small paragraph the author writes in order to reach to a claim or a conclusion. And in order to validate that claim or conclusion, the points presented to justify would be called evidence or premise. So evidence or premise I can interchangeably use. Similarly, I can interchangeably use the term claim and conclusion. At times, what happens is that since the argument is small, there are certain aspects which are not taken into consideration while establishing the conclusion. This creates flaws, error, fallacy, or gap in the argument. In order to bridge this gap, we take into consideration an assumption. So, what is the role of an assumption? That whatever flaw is in the argument that can be taken care by assuming the facts which are hidden, right? So these are three aspects to the argument. Now, please try and understand that when we talk about the weakening question, let's say there's a premise given based on which we are drawing a conclusion. And like I said, there is a gap. Some people might also call it a flaw or language shift. So this gap is taken care by considering an assumption. So, if your goal is to weaken the argument, how are you going to weaken the argument? You're going to attack the assumption, right? So, once you have attacked the assumption, then you are trying to establish the flaws or making the argument vulnerable to criticism, and that's what the goal we would want to achieve. Further, when we talk about an approach, I always recommend my students that there should be a proper approach while you are dealing the questions in verbal section. Unfortunate part is that students are very eager to pick up an approach as far as quant, LR, or DI is concerned, but when it comes to verbal, they would go without an approach. I'm sure I'm sounding repetitive, but I keep on emphasizing on this idea to make you understand that verbal is also eventually testing you on logic, right? There are just two ways to test you on logic. Either you can be tested via numbers, so for that you have maths and DI, and other way is to test your logic through words, and that is the reason you get the English section or the verbal ability section. So if the test is of logic, then we need to have a strategic approach. We need to have a logical approach to solve the questions. Haywired approach will not actually help you reach to the right answers effectively. There can be some instances where without following an approach, you are reaching to the right answers, but it is not always applicable. And the uncertainty in terms of the difficulty level is there, and we can't risk where we are just going random, right? So I hope I make sense. Please make it a point that you follow the approach. Before I commence with any practicing, any solving of the questions, I usually give an approach to solve the question. So my suggestion would be to pen down the approach and apply whenever we are solving questions. So at times what happens is students do not apply the approach while they are practicing, and then they all of a sudden realize that they should apply the approach in the exam or while they are giving the mock. So if this sort of irregularity is there, you would not be successful. So make it a habit, and believe me on this, applying an approach would not require any additional time, right? Initially it might sound challenging, it might sound tedious, but it isn't. It doesn't require a lot of extra time, and the sort of accuracy you'll get will be really amazing, right? So let's see what is the first step. The first step is to read the question. Once you get clarity, what is your goal, you will be in a better position. You will be far more equipped to answer it intelligently. So, what do students do? They read the paragraph or the argument, come to the question, and then go back to the paragraph. So, this is how we are making redundancy, or making, we're wasting time. We're making an effort to read the passage twice. So, that's not what is the ideal way. Get clarity and with a focused approach, because now you know what you're supposed to do in the question. You'll be having a good insight about what the argument is trying to offer, right? So these are the keywords which you can see as far as the weakening questions are concerned. So you get words like weakening, undermining, cast. What do we mean weakening? You are trying to damage the conclusion made by the author, right? So these are the words: damage, counter, vulnerable, fallacious, weaken, attack, undermine, refute, challenge, call into question. So I'll give you one entire minute. Please pen down these words so that you are friendly. So see, quick note making is a good thing to do while you are learning the strategies, because then you have one particular place where you can quickly go through before sitting for any practice session, right? So quickly write down these words and then we'll proceed further. I'm sure you noted down the words. So let's further see what is the next step. Next step is to deconstruct the argument. So here our essential goal is to look for the conclusion and the premise. So conclusion is the point the author is trying to establish, and premise is the fact offered in order to justify the conclusion. So please do look for conclusion indicators, words like hence, as a result, consequently, therefore. These words help you identify that which statement will act as a conclusion. And the best part is that you are not supposed to cram these words. You're already aware of these words. The only expectation is that you become observant while you see them. You can look for premise indicators like because, since. These are the words that will help you identify a premise. In case you are not able to find any premise or conclusion indicator, do a simple why test. Now, what is the why test? Look for the conclusion, or try to identify the statement that you find appropriate acts as a conclusion in the discussion. Convert that statement into a why question, and the sentence which tries to answer the why question will be the premise, right? In case the other statement which is there in the question fails to answer your question, that means your selection of conclusion and premise remains to be incorrect, right? Simple, isn't it? Why don't you just pen it down? So we are talking about why test. Convert the conclusion statement that you have identified into a why question and check whether the next statement, I mean the remaining statement, is helping you answer the question. If yes, then your identification on conclusion and premise remains to be correct. So quickly pen it down. It's not there in the notes. So it would be of help in case there are no solid conclusion or premise indicators for you. I'll give you another minute to do so. So let's further move forward. The third step is to look for a loophole in the argument. So, like I mentioned, that when we consider an argument, it is essentially composed of a premise which is to be always considered true, because this is a result of some study, and Conclusion is the point that the author is trying to establish. Now, there is usually a flaw in the argument. In order to bridge this gap, we take assumption into consideration. So, assumption is helping us overcome the problems. Now, if you have to attack the conclusion, the simple way will be you should damage the assumption. So, that is the reason it is important to identify the loophole, because that will eventually help you identify the assumption in the argument. And then once you are sorted with the assumption, then you can definitely solve the assumption questions in a better way. You can definitely tackle the questions based on weakening and strengthening intelligently. The next step is always project an answer, though this might look like an additional step, but please understand, if you do this F step, then you are going to reach to the clear answers, right? You will have clean answer choices. There would be hardly any confusion between the two. So I usually see this complaint coming, and I'm sure you must be empathizing with this problem, that ma'am, we are able to eliminate three choices out of five or choices out of four, but the last two create confusion. So that usually happens once. That there are two three reasons. One, the first reason is that you are not sorted with what you're supposed to do, so you're not clear with the objective of the question. One thing. Another reason can be you've not predicted the answer, so you get confused or you get swayed by the incorrect answer choice. Once you have an answer in your mind, you know what the correct answer should do, then the confusion will not be there, because you have an answer in your mind and you're looking for an answer choice which is able to convey the same idea in different words, right? Third reason for the confusion between the last two answer choices is where we are not able to intelligently eliminate the incorrect options. For that, you should be aware of the grounds of elimination. So let's see what are the grounds of elimination. I am a strong believer. In fact, if you're watching the videos, you must have realized that this is one point which I always emphasize, that in verbal selection never works. You should intelligently try to eliminate the incorrect answer choices. So the idea of a process of elimination is that out of five choices, four are essentially wrong. So you should be sure that why these four answer choices are wrong, whatever remains shall serve as the right answer. Instead of convincing yourself why is this choice correct, try to convince yourself that why the other four are wrong. Right? Once you're certain that the other four are not correct, then it is very easy to reach to the right answer. So elimination always works. In fact, for any question of verbal, please try following this approach. You'll be very sorted, and you'll be reaching to the answers effectively. Now, what are the grounds of elimination? Please eliminate answer choices which have extreme language. Words like all, always, none, only, must, never. Let me write these words for you. All, always, must, never, none, only. Always be suspicious about these answer choices. Make it a point that you are paying attention to these words. Please pen down these words, and then we discuss the rest of the tools of elimination. So let's see what is the next tool. Eliminate answer choices which are irrelevant, out of the context, or out of scope of the discussion. Third important thing to keep in mind is that don't be driven by your instinct, prejudice, biasness while you are marking the correct answer. Right? At times we have the information, or we have encountered the similar sort of text before. We have our thought process. We have, studied the concept deeply, or we have read some opinions about it. So at times what happens is that our instinct drives question solving, which is absolutely an incorrect way to do so. You should always be driven by the logic and the information provided in the text. So please ensure that your previous encounter with the text or knowledge or information should not act as a hindrance while you are picking up the answer, right? As far as possible, try to keep the answer aligned to the information offered in the text. The questions intend to check you on your ability to make relevant decisions and logical decisions and on your skills to solve the problem. So, this can only happen once you are sorted that you should be focusing on the information offered and not on the information or the knowledge that you have regarding the topic, right? So I hope you are clear with the steps. Let's start question solving. So I'll give you a minute, try this question, and then we discuss it together. So let's begin with the discussion. The first step is to read the question. I know we are doing all the weakening questions, but still I would strongly recommend that please use the steps, because then only you'll be able to, absorb the ideology. So, which of the following, if true, cast the most doubt on the conclusion above? So, this is clearly the weakening question. So, let's see. What is the argument all about once we have the clarity. There's a relatively little room for growth in the overall carpet market, which is tied to the size of the population. Most who purchase carpets do so only once or twice, first in their 20s or 30s, and then perhaps again in their 50s or 60s. So please see, this is an indicator, this is a conclusion, right? So this, look for such indicators. I'm marking so that you are conscious and aware of the observations that you need to make. Thus, as the population ages, companies producing carpet will be able to gain market share in the carpet market only through purchasing competitors and not through more aggressive marketing. So the argument says that people buy carpets at two phases, first in their 20s 30s and second in their 50s 60s. So there's not a lot of market. So if the company has to target to have a market share, then you can't be doing aggressive marketing because इतना तो डिमांड ही नहीं है. आपको अपने कॉम्पिटिटर्स को परचेज करना पड़ेगा, उससे आपका मार्केट गेन होगा. So any answer choice which tries to damage this, provide some other reasons to make profit, that can possibly serve as the right answer. Let's take a look at the answer choices. Most of the major carpet producers market other floor coverings as well. So we are not concerned with other floor coverings. So this choice gets eliminated, right? So this, how do we eliminate? We say this is out of scope. We are not bothered about other floor coverings, right? Take a look at the next answer choice. Most established carpet producers market several different brand names and varieties, and there is no remaining niche in the market for new brands to fill. So again, we are not talking about new brands and their performance goes out. Two of the three mergers in the industry's last 10 years led to a decline in profit and revenues for newly merged companies. Again, irrelevant. Coming to D, price reductions achieved by cost cutting in production by some of the dominant firms in the carpet are causing other producers to leave the market altogether. So this possibly helps us understand that how the trend has to be followed so we can keep this. Coming to E, the carpet market is unlike most markets in that consumers are becoming increasingly resistant to new patterns and styles. So again, irrelevant. So that's the beauty of elimination. We have eliminated the four answer choices. Whatever remains shall serve as the right answer. So we will go for D as the final answer. I hope we are sorted. Let's move to the next question. Let's try this. So let's see. Which of the following, if true about last year, most seriously weakens the argument? So it's a weakening question. Now let's take a look at the argument offered. High school students who feel that they are not succeeding in high school often drop out before graduating and go to work. Last year, however, the city's high school dropout rate was significantly lower than the previous year rate. This is encouraging evidence that the program instituted 2 years ago to improve the morale of high school students has begun to take effect to reduce dropouts. So basically, this is a cause and effect relationship. What is the cause? That there was a program launched to reduce the dropout rate, and that's giving an output that the dropout rate has reduced. Can you see? So please observe that this is a cause and effect relationship. So, if you have to weaken a cause and effect relationship, you have to point out the other causes. So, any answer choice which states that apart from this program, there were other factors that contributed can possibly serve as the right answer. Right? So, let's take a look at the answer choices. So there is the first answer choice which says there was a recession that caused high level of unemployment in the city. So there were no employment opportunities as people continue to study. So this is giving an alternative cause. So this works as a good answer. So we can definitely keep this answer choice, right? So for any cause and effect relationship, we always need to keep this in mind that the moment we point out, in fact, you can write it. In order to weaken the argument, point out other causes. And this is valid for any cause and effect relationship, right? Coming to the second answer choice, the morale of students who dropped out of high school had been low even before they reached high school. So morale is irrelevant to the discussion, goes out. As in the preceding year, more high school students remained in the school than drop out. Irrelevant. High schools in the city establish placement offices to assist their graduates in obtaining employment. Again, that doesn't help in weakening. The anti dropout program was primarily aimed at improving students' morale in those high schools with the highest dropout rates. So, intent nahi discuss kar rahe, we are trying to weaken the argument. And how do we weaken the cause and effect argument? By pointing out other causes. So, I'm sure we are sorted. The correct answer is going to be A. Let's move to the next question. I'll give you a minute to try. It's a very interesting question. I'm sure you're going to enjoy solving it. Please solve. So let's get started. The first step is we are going to read the question. The argument is most vulnerable to criticism on which of the following grounds? So vulnerable means something where the objection can be raised. In a way, you have to weaken the argument. So let's read the argument. Cottrell is at best able to write magazine articles of average quality. So we're talking about a lady, Cottrell, and she's writing the articles of average quality. Most compelling piece of evidence for this are those few of the numerous articles submitted by Cottrell that are superior. So she has submitted some articles which are superior, but बोल ऐसा रहे कि वो average quality के लिख सकती है. Since Cottrell, who's incapable of writing an article that's better than average, must obviously have plagiarized superior ones. So they're saying that she writes of average quality. जो उसने अच्छा लिखा क्योंकि वो अच्छा लिख नहीं सकती इसलिए उसने प्लैगराइज किया होगा. प्लैगराइजिंग इज टू स्टील somebody's ideas. So अब इस पे क्या objection है? Let's take a look at the answer choices. It simply ignores the existence of potential counter evidence. Potential counter evidence मतलब इसको कोई challenge कर दे, उसको ignore कर रहा है. तो इसमें challenge तो क्या होगा, right? So this तो is very irrelevant, goes out. It generalizes from atypical occurrences. तो atypical तो है नहीं क्योंकि पहले ही conclusion ने कह दिया कि average ही लिखती है. So this also goes out. It presupposes what it seeks to establish. Absolutely. अगर आप इस statement को समझने की कोशिश करेंगे, slightly technical लग सकता है आपको, पर है नहीं. ऑथर जिस ग्राउंड पे कंक्लूजन एस्टैब्लिश कर रहा है उसका प्रेमाइस भी वही है, राइट. प्रेमाइस और कंक्लूजन दोनों ही कहते हैं कि वो एवरेज क्वालिटी का लिखती हैं. दैट्स व्हाट सी इज ट्राइंग टू से. सो इट इज प्री सपोजिंग what it seeks to establish. मतलब उसने मान ही लिया कि अगर अच्छा लिख रहा है तो क्योंकि वो एवरेज लिखती है तो उसने चुराया ही होगा, राइट. So that's the reason C can serve as a good answer. Come to D. It relies on the judgment of experts in a matter to which their expertise is irrelevant. अब judgment और expertise की तो बात हो नहीं रही, so ये चली जाएगी answer choice. It infers limits on ability from a few isolated नहीं है, few isolated lapses नहीं है. lapses का मतलब problem. यहाँ पर क्या हो रहा है कि जो अच्छे आर्टिकल्स लिखे थे वो लैप्सेस नहीं थे, वो तो बढ़िया परफॉर्मेंस थी, उसको भी कंसिडर कर रहे हैं. सो दैट इज द रीजन ई गोज आउट. द करेक्ट आंसर चॉइस इज गोइंग टू बी सी. दैट्स अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन, very important. In fact, many a times it has been tested. So I'll give you another 1 minute to absorb the information and content again, revise it, and get sorted with C, and then we are going to proceed. I'm sure we are sorted. So let's move to the next question. Take a minute, try it, and then we are going to discuss. So let's discuss which of the following, if true, will weaken the argument. So it's a weakening question. Now let's read the argument. A famous culinary is cookery, okay? Expert was made a judge of a cookery show. He stated that people who are above 40 in age cook deliciously well as compared to people who are younger in age. Clearly, above 40 years are more patient, skilled, and creative in their culinary skills as compared to people who are less than 40. So, this is the conclusion indicator, and this conclusion is being observed by the point raised by the culinary expert. So any answer choice which will target would say that it's not essential to be an expert if you're less than 40. That's how you're going to damage it, right? So let's take a look at the options. The winner of the cookery show was a lady who has her own restaurant since last 30 years. तो ये तो argument को strengthen कर रहा है. ये अगर last 30 years से restaurant है, तो अगर उन्होंने 20 साल में भी रेस्टोरेंट शुरू किया तो भी 50 इयर्स की होंगी, राइट? तो हम ए को तो बहुत आसानी से एलिमिनेट कर देंगे क्योंकि ये स्ट्रेंथन कर रहा है और हमें वीकन करना है. कई बार ये कैची ट्रैप्स होते हैं जहाँ पे क्योंकि क्वेश्चन को लेकर क्लैरिटी नहीं होती, एक्साइटमेंट बहुत होता है, प्रेशर बहुत होता है, और अगर आपको कुछ इंस्टेंटली क्लिक करता है तो आप रश में मार्क कर देते हो. दैट इज द रीजन आई ऑलवेज से क्वेश्चन को पढ़िए. क्वेश्चन वीकनिंग का है, स्ट्रेंथनिंग का नहीं है. बट बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स जल्दबाजी में या एक्साइटमेंट में ए मार्क कर देते हैं. दैट्स नॉट सर्विंग अ पर्पस. Question is to weaken. So that is the reason A will go out. Come to B. The cake designed by a recently passed hotel management graduate add-on were brilliant and unique in taste as the flavor of banana went really well with cinnamon and black pepper. तो अब देखिए ये एक जो रिसेंटली ग्रेजुएटेड होटल मैनेजमेंट का है तो वो लेस देन 40 होगा और वो कह रहे हैं वो अच्छा कुक करता है. यानी कि जो आर्ग्यूमेंट ने पॉइंट रेज किया था दैट इफ यू हैव टू बी अ गुड कुक यू हैव टू बी अबव 40, दैट्स गेटिंग डैमेज. सो दिस कैन वर्क एज अ गुड आंसर. वी आर गोइंग टू कीप बी, right? So let's keep B. Come to C. Weber, another cookery expert, stated that training helps to enhance the cooking skills of the individual. तो वेबर का ओपिनियन नहीं चाहिए और ट्रेनिंग का रोल है कि नहीं है. दिस इज आउट ऑफ स्कोप, राइट? सो दिस इज आउट ऑफ स्कोप. So we can eliminate C. Coming to D, all the contestants who were rejected in first round of the show were under 40. ये strengthen करेगा, हमें weaken करना है. So ये भी चला जाएगा. The jury of the show included chefs who were in the age group of 50 to 60. तो jury कौन थी ये भी irrelevant है. तो हमारा correct answer would be B in this case, right? Simple and interesting questions. All you need to do is to get into the rhythm, understand the task, and then intelligently use the information provided to answer the questions logically. Just quickly take 30 seconds and redo the question on your own. So let's try the next question. A minute for you, and then we'll discuss. So let's begin with the discussion. Which of the following, if true, will undermine the conclusion of the argument? That means we are supposed to weaken the question. Let's read the argument. The newly launched company conducted a survey where it presented their newly launched chips to the people without revealing the identity of the company. People found the chips better than the ones they consumed already present in the market. It can be concluded that chips will be able to give good competition to other companies' chips. मतलब एक सर्वे में एक chips present किए गए, नाम नहीं बताया ब्रांड का, but people found the taste better as compared to the existing brand. Now, since they found the taste better, so we are trying to conclude that the company is going to give competition to the existing brand. Fair enough. If we have to weaken the argument, then we'll say that there is some flaw or there is some reason where the company will not be able to give competition to the existing brand, right? So that's how we are going to damage the argument. So we know what the answer should do. So if you are able to observe, I'm keeping my answer choices simple and not very complicated, a general idea of what the answer should do, right? I'm not reaching to too specific terminology or framing of sentence, keeping a simple general statement, a broad sentence, so that the objective is clear that what the answer should look like, right? So let's explore the answer choices. So the first answer choice says the price of the chips launched is higher as compared to the prices of chips of other companies. तो अगर पैसा ज़्यादा होगा तो कंपटीशन कैसे देगा, यानी कि एक रीज़न दे दिया कि क्यों कंपटीशन नहीं दे सकता, तो इससे हमारी आर्ग्यूमेंट वीकन हो जाएगी, राइट? वी कैन मार्क दिस. Come to B. The company tried the same survey technique to introduce chocolates and received huge success. तो हमें तो weaken करना है, right? तो इसलिए B भी eliminate हो जाएगा. तो question को लेकर बड़े clear रहिएगा कि करना क्या है. Most of the students यहीं पे मात खा जाते हैं क्योंकि समझते ही नहीं है question को. मैं बार बार कहती हूँ question acts as a bridge between the paragraph and the answer choices. तो जितनी strong पकड़ आपकी question को लेकर होगी उतना आपके answers correct होंगे. Coming to the third option, the company always tries to set high standards of the products and never compromises on quality. हमें तो weaken करना है, so ये भी eliminate हो जाएगा. The new team responsible for launching the product is very experienced. Again, it's not helping in weakening. The company plans to increase its business by 23.45% by the end of this financial year. तो ये तो irrelevant answer choices है. मतलब हम इसका क्या करें हमें नहीं पता, right? So this is irrelevant. So now we have eliminated how many choices? 4. So whatever remains shall serve as the right answer. So for this question, we are going to go for A. रीजन ये दिया कि कंपटीशन के लिए उसके प्राइसेस ज्यादा है तो मार्केट में दूसरे ब्रांड से compete नहीं कर पाएगी. As simple as that, right? So I hope you are sorted on this question. You can quickly give another 1 minute or 30 seconds to solve it on your own and absorb the method, and then we move to the next question. I hope we are sorted. Let's try the next question. A minute for you to attempt, and then we are going to get into the discussion. I hope you have tried. So let's begin with the discussion. Which of the following, if true, will weaken the argument? So this is a weakening question. Now we are sorted with what we are supposed to do. Let's read the argument. The recent cleanliness drive happened in the schools in Audenville, used extensive cleansing agents, insecticides, and other chemicals. After the cleanliness, it has been seen that children are facing certain allergic and respiratory problems. The nearby dispensary has reported increase in the number of cases in children having allergies after the cleanliness drive. Therefore, as a conclusion indicator, it can be concluded that students have been exposed to greater quantity of chemicals which has led to such medical issues. तो argument ये कहती है कि Audenville नाम के एक शहर में क्लेanलीनेस ड्राइव हुई स्कूल्स में, तो एक्सटेंसिव केमिकल्स यूज किए गए, स्टूडेंट्स को एक्सपोजर ज़्यादा मिला केमिकल से, तो उनको रेस्पिरेटरी प्रॉब्लम्स हो गई। द कंक्लूजन इज सेइंग दैट क्योंकि एक्सपोजर ज़्यादा था, इसकी वजह से स्टूडेंट्स में मेडिकल इश्यूज आ रहे हैं, राइट। सो एज यू कैन सी इट इज़ अ कॉज एंड इफेक्ट रिलेशनशिप, राइट। तो कॉज क्या है? आपका एक्सपोजर टू केमिकल्स, राइट, exposure to chemicals। और इसका इफेक्ट क्या हो रहा है? इसका इफेक्ट हो रहा है दैट देर आर मेडिकल प्रॉब्लम्स। आई होप आप ये देख पाते हो। तो जब ऑथर ने ये आर्ग्यूमेंट को क्रिएट किया तो उसने अज्यूम किया कि कोई और फैक्टर रिस्पॉन्सिबल नहीं है। अब क्योंकि कॉज एंड इफेक्ट है, हमने पहले भी डिस्कस किया कि अगर कॉजैलिटी का रिलेशनशिप एग्जिबिट होता है तो हम ये अज्यूम करते हैं कि देयर इज नो अदर कॉज प्रेजेंट। अगर आर्ग्यूमेंट को वीकन करना है तो आप कह दीजिए कि कोई एग्जिस्टिंग कॉज पहले से था या कोई दूसरा कॉज है exposure to chemicals के अलावा। So the moment you are able to locate such answer, there you get your correct one. So let's take a look at the answer choices. So are you able to see? I'm always predicting an answer, keeping it very simple and inclined to the information offered. So let's do the process of elimination. The first choice says the similar cleanliness drive was carried out in the neighboring city and there also similar problems were seen in the students. अब हमें strengthen तो नहीं करना, हमें तो weaken करना है, तो फिर हम easily A को eliminate कर देते हैं, right? So what we are going to do, we are going to eliminate A. The students who have faced such problems already suffer from pulmonary disease. तो अगर अगर आप इस आंसर चॉइस को रखेंगे तो ये एक तरीके से आर्ग्यूमेंट को वीकन करेगा कि भाई केमिकल्स की वजह से नहीं हुआ, ऑलरेडी उनको रेस्पिरेटरी प्रॉब्लम्स थी, तो इसको तो बिल्कुल रखा जा सकता है। Coming to C, the mayor has asked the school to take help of medical department to help children get recovered soon. तो ये तो course of action हो गया, right? This is course of action. What the mayor is suggesting, what the school should do. So we are not looking for a course of action. We have to weaken the argument, right? To see भी tempting लगता है। फिर मैं बात वही घुमा फिरा के आपको कह रही हूँ, क्वेश्चन को लेकर क्लियर रहिए कि करना क्या है। सो अगर आपको नहीं पता रहेगा या आप जल्दबाजी में करोगे या क्वेश्चन को अटेंशन नहीं दोगे, क्योंकि आएगा तो मिक्स बैग सेट, आपको कोई लेबल करके क्वेश्चन तो मिलेगा नहीं। सो यू हैव टू बी वेरी वेरी केयरफुल नॉट टू डू दिस मिस्टेक्स। Coming to D, the school association has decided not to run cleanliness campaigns from the coming years. ये भी course of action है, तो इसलिए D भी eliminate हो गया। Course of action का मतलब है करना क्या चाहिए in order to overcome the problem. The students are having irritation and redness in eyes and breathing problems, especially when they're inside the class. ये strengthen करता है, हमें argument को weaken करना है। तो that is the reason, be very very careful that what is your goal and we should be clear why the incorrect answer choices are getting eliminated, right? So we can very easily go for B as the correct answer. B choice कहता है कि देखिए cleanliness drive नहीं है, जिनको problem आ रही है उनको पहले ही pulmonary disease थी, तो chemicals are not much of the contributors that are leading to respiratory troubles, right? So I hope you're sorted with the questions. Time to move to the next one. Take a minute, try this, and then we are going to discuss it together. So let's begin with the discussion. Which of the following, if true, will weaken the argument? So we can see it's a weakening question. Now let's take a look at the argument. A rare type of disease has spread in the southern part of the country that has led to decimation of coconut trees. So the trees, number of trees are going down or they're dying down. Okay. This has eventually forced the coconut sellers to increase the price of raw coconuts क्योंकि अगर coconuts खराब हो रहे हैं तो existing जो coconuts हैं demand supply के concept से डिमांड ज़्यादा है सप्लाई कम है सप्लाई क्यों कम है क्योंकि एक डिजीज स्प्रेड हो गई है तो फिर जो प्राइसेस है वो इंक्रीज हो रहा है और कोई पॉसिबिलिटी भी नहीं है कि प्राइस नीचे जाएंगे Hence, it can be concluded that price of coconut oil will see a sharp rise. Right? तो हम ये कंक्लूड कर रहे हैं कि क्योंकि प्राइसेस ज्यादा होंगे तो कोकोनट ऑयल कोकोनट से बनता है तो कोकोनट ऑयल के प्राइसेस भी इंक्रीज हो जाएंगे अब आर्ग्यूमेंट को डैमेज करना है यानी कि अटैक करना है अब ऑप्शंस देखिए आप Women in the house will opt for other cooking oils if the price of coconut increases. ये भी solution है या course of action देता है हमें तो कहना है कि भाई डैमेज करो इसको कि प्राइसेस नहीं बढ़ेंगे राइट सो ये एलिमिनेट हो गया एग्रोनॉमिस्ट हैव फाउंड वेज टू सेव ट्रीज फ्रॉम दिस डेडली डिजीज अब दिस इज अगेन नॉट टारगेटिंग द कंक्लूजन गोज आउट सी देखिए edible cooking oil will be affected more as compared to one which is used for cosmetic purposes अब coconut oil general लिखा है edible है या cosmetic reason से use होगा वो हम नहीं बोल सकते तो C भी eliminate हो गया The price of coconut oil has remained erratic in the market since last 1 year. Erratic is that keeps on varying. keeps on changing. So अब last 1 year का ट्रेंड तो हम देख नहीं रहे हमें तो फ्यूचर की बात करनी है तो फिर डी भी एलिमिनेट हो गया देखिए दैट्स व्हाट आई ट्राई टू एक्सप्लेन दैट दिस इज द ब्यूटी ऑफ प्रोसेस ऑफ एलिमिनेशन अब आपने ए बी सी डी एलिमिनेट कर दिए जो बचा है दैट विल एक्ट एज द राइट आंसर एक बार एक्सप्लोर करके देखते हैं mostly manufactured coconut oil has used coconuts brought 2 years before अगर coconut oil manufacture हो चुका है और उसने 2 साल पुराने coconut को यूज किया है तो कोई डिपेंडेंसी नहीं है with the present trend in the market तो अगर कोई डिपेंडेंसी नहीं है तो प्राइस इंक्रीज कैसे होगा right I hope this is very simple mathematical logic right so I hope we are sorted hence we can very easily say E is going to be the answer take a minute and solve it again because this small math fundamental used, you will be able to absorb it better if you do it on your own. Please try it once again and then we move to the next question. So let's move to the next one. Please try this, then we are going to discuss. I hope you have tried. So let's begin with the discussion. Which of the following, if true, will undermine the argument? So it's a weakening question. Take a look at the argument. UNICEF launched campaign to eradicate. So eradicate is remove, right? So that is the reason we say vocabulary is important because you might not directly get vocab-based questions, but then here and there, if you encounter a word and you do not know the meanings, then it becomes slightly difficult. However, of course, if you are intelligent enough, you can gather the meaning by looking at the context, right? The intense efforts to give polio drops to children bore fruits, and as compared to the previous year, the number of children affected from polio in the government data has reduced by 45%. So they are saying that there was a campaign by UNICEF और क्योंकि इतना effort किया तो जो children affected with polio इनका number government data के हिसाब से 45% reduce हो गया मतलब significant drop है Based on the facts, it can be concluded that campaign was able to reduce cases by 45%. फिर देखो आप cause and effect है, यानी आप बार बार देख लो, आपको एक ही fundamental चाहिए. You don't need to practice thousands of questions. You just need to understand how the argument is crafted. So they are saying UNICEF के efforts की वजह से data reduce हो गया. तो अगर कहीं हम कहते हैं alternate causes present हैं तो argument weaken हो जाएगी. Like, you know, you can write this down, that whenever there's a cause and effect relationship, the moment you point out other causes, in a way, you are trying to weaken the argument, attack the argument, right? So let's take a look at the answer choices. We know what the answer should do. Only the children are susceptible to polio, to irrelevant, right? The similar type campaign to eradicate hepatitis B also saw significant decrease. तो अब hepatitis B की तो बात नहीं हो रही, तो आप इसको out of scope कह सकते हो कि भाई ये तो irrelevant to the context है, right? C पर आओ. Apart from UNICEF, there are other state-promoted campaigns that have been able to contribute. तो हमने क्या किया यहाँ पे other factors बता दिए. तो other factors बता दिए तो in a way आप main cause को weaken कर रहे हो, या आप कह रहे हो कि बाकी सारे causes भी responsible थे. तो इसको तो definitely रखा जा सकता है. नो मैटर हाउ श्योर यू आर विद द करेक्ट आंसर. आपको पता है यही आंसर है, जैसे हम अभी यूनानिमसली अग्री करेंगे कि सी से बड़े आंसर नहीं हो सकता, बट डू नॉट टेक अ फाइनल कॉल टिल यू एलिमिनेट ऑल द ऑप्शंस. प्लीज कीप दिस इन माइंड, राइट? पीपल हु कंज्यूम पोलियो ड्रॉप्स डू नॉट फेल प्रे टू अदर डिजीज. तो दूसरी डिजीज की बात नहीं हो रही, इररेलेवेंट है. The reports generated are authentic and there's no possibility of discrepancy. तो हमें तो weaken करना है, इसलिए E भी eliminate हो जाएगा. So what would be the correct answer in this case? C. Right? So this brings us to an end of the discussion. I hope you really like the video. I hope we are sorted with the strategy. Please follow this advice, that stick to the strategies. This is really going to help. Initially, it might sound slightly difficult, but if you're going to practice a lot, you're going to gain the momentum. Make sure that you're putting the efforts in the right direction, and don't forget, consistency is the key. Do watch this space for more videos. Thank you so much. God bless. Take care.